Hey everyone. Today I wanted to talk to you all about my project proposal for my English class. So, for my research topic, I wanted to research how tourism and recreational activities are affecting wildlife, which could be plants or animals that are all one and the same. And this topic is relevant to everybody because we're all part of such a delicate ecosystem. And with the smallest change, things could get put out of balance. And when the ecosystem goes out of balance, it can affect things such as weather, our food resources could be out of balance, and a multitude of different species will be affected by the shift. This topic is important and intriguing to me because I am an outdoor recreation major and I am hopefully going to be dealing with this for the rest of my life because it's what I love. Because when I was young, my parents would take me camping, and I have even worked at a Boy Scout camp ever since I was 14 years old, and I worked there for 8 summers, I think, and it's just something that I love to do now. I love the outdoors, whether it's backcountry or even just something as simple as going to a national park. And it's the reason why I have such a stake of interest in this is that I have seen firsthand animal populations that were once ginormous just dwindle down, and I'm very curious to see if it is tourism that is affecting it. And it is so important for all of us to take interest in this because if this trend does continue and the wildlife, being plant life as well as animals, are dwindling, then we are just going to be stuck in this world where there's really no place to get away. And that doesn't sound like the greatest place for me. If you think of places like New York, they can describe it as a concrete jungle. And that's the reason why Central Park is so well known, is because it is like stepping into a whole different world. And if the whole world is New York and there's no Central Parks, then what will this world really become? So, for my secondary research methods, I would like to look at newspaper articles and magazines, and I would also like to look into some journals from people who have done primary research themselves, like in the field observing animals. And some of the questions that I need answered is how the decline of the species will affect humans. And this is important because I know that some people reading this paper won't have necessarily like a huge interest in the topic, but if they see that it will affect them directly, then it could cause them to care about the topic. And some keywords that I could use to help me find articles in databases and stuff could be like I could search the broad topic of reasons for wildlife decline or decrease, and if anything comes up from there, I can go in and search those specifically, such as poaching or deforestation. My research questions are going to be how does tourism affect wildlife, and what will happen if wildlife decreases, and how can humans help decrease their impact? And by that, I mean their impact that they have on wildlife. So, for my thesis statement, what I have learned so far is that there are a lot of ways that animals can be affected. A few of those are just deforestation, poaching, and loss of land. And I've also learned that it is possible to help the wildlife thrive if we just practice responsible recreation, is what some people like to call it, such as leave no trace. So, my thesis statement, just with what I know so far, is while all over the country there are still natural landscapes for animals to call home, many of those areas are heavily used for recreation purposes, and tourism is a large contributing factor to this. In this paper, I will go over the impact tourism is having on wildlife, as well as what we can do to help preserve our wildlife. So, my research, I'm not sure how much time I will have to do primary research since it would involve a lot of going to the same place multiple times a week for extended periods of time, observing animals and like just watching their behaviors and seeing if maybe it's weather that's affecting why we don't see them, or if it's just that their population really is decreasing. extensive research, and I don't have that kind of time for this research paper. But I would like to conduct a survey of just multiple backgrounds, maybe just put like a Survey Monkey post on Facebook and see what kind of practices that people are already doing for responsible recreation, such as picking up garbage off the trails and keeping on the trails, trying not to forge your own path because that will affect some of the plant wildlife. And for my secondary research, I have already come across an article that one of my recreation teachers has shown me, which I think is interesting because it talks about how national parks are being visited by too many tourists for the wildlife and the landscape to keep up. So it will be interesting to look into that to see like how this author's perspective will be on how we can maintain the landscape and the wildlife while still having tourism. It'll be a nice view into what the balance could be like. The big so what is that I'm hoping that this research is going to expand upon the knowledge that people have about preservation of nature, and I just want to make some connections that maybe people haven't made before. Maybe they don't see that animals, while they may not be dwindling, maybe they just don't like being around humans. Maybe some people haven't thought of that, so I think that that would be good to make some connections that I see, but maybe other people don't. And my ultimate goal is that I hope that this research will help people make the decision for themselves to participate in responsible recreation and leave no trace programs. This is my timeline for the rest of the semester. I should be following up on these, being on top of them. I have all of the actual assignments, the research, the rough drafts, and the peer reviews on there. So that is what I'm going to be researching this semester, and I hope you all enjoyed it.